...2019 is in the rearview mirror. It is now 2020. So I thought I would take this time and do a quick video and share with you what I feel are my top films from 2019. Some of these I did reviews for, some of these I did not. So we're just going to go through them. We're just going to hit them and quit them. And we're going to get through this list as quick as possible. But first, before we do, I want to hit up what I think are the two worst films that I saw from this past year. Shit film number one is Playing with Fire, starring John Cena. I know I'm a 35-year-old adult, and this movie is not catered to the sensibilities of a 35-year-old adult. But even so, I feel like this movie was just fucking terrible. There were some really bizarre editing choices. There was some piss poor direction. The writing was lousy. And like I said, yeah, it's a Nickelodeon movie. It's a kid's movie. But I don't remember the movies I watched at that age being this bad. This is just almost so fucking white bread, vanilla, bland bad that I don't know how it even made money, even from the level of a little kid. I don't even know any little kids that like this movie. Not that I hang around little kids or anything like that. I mean, I have nieces and nephews, but just never mind. Moving on. And shit movie number one for me this year was the Pet Sematary remake. Now, if you want a full rundown or you want a full review of this movie, just go check out the video I did earlier this year. Bottom line, this movie was okay for a portion of it, but once it got to the ending of this movie just fucking shot it straight to hell. It was a terrible ending to an otherwise average movie. There's an old rule of thumb. It's usually not how a film starts, but how a film finishes. And this film finished really fucking bad for me. I thought it was terrible. Now, I'm sure there are worse movies you people have seen out there, but out of everything I had seen this year, this was the worst. But those are my two worst movies of 2019, so let's get this top 10 cracking. Coming in at number 10, Shazam. This was a movie that really caught me off guard because I don't know a lot about Shazam. Like I said in my review for it, all I know is that he was a superhero and he had a lightning bolt and his name was Shazam. But I really loved this movie. I liked the chemistry between the actors, and I thought the story was so much fun and it had so much heart to it. And it's a movie right now I would say is among the best of the DC universe thus far. Coming in at number 9 is the new Tarantino flick, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. 99% of the time, if it's Tarantino, you're gonna get something fucking phenomenal. But I wouldn't say this was fucking phenomenal. It was really good. Was it better than Django Unchained or Inglourious Basterds or Reservoir Dogs or Kill Bill or Pulp Fiction? No. But was it still a good movie? Yes. Most of the times when you get a movie that's 3 hours, if it's paced really well, the time just flies by. But Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it really felt like it's running time. When you're watching this movie, it feels like you're in there for 3 hours. It doesn't feel like it just goes. That's my only gripe with this movie. I thought it was excellent. It's classic Tarantino. It's a little long, and it feels a little long. Coming in at number 8 is Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Holy shit, how can I put the new shitty Star Wars movie above Tarantino and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? I must not know what I'm talking about, or I'm just a fucking idiot. Quite frankly, if you feel that way, I really got nothing to come back at you with. Yeah, I probably am a bit of an idiot. But you know what? Despite all of the flaws with The Rise of Skywalker, I still had a fun time watching it. And unlike Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it didn't feel like 2.5 hours in the theater to me. That time flew by. And yeah, there were some potholes in the road with a lot of the story, and some things were rushed, some things didn't make sense, some things I wish they would have elaborated more on. But you know what? I still had a great time watching it. It's Star Wars. I will mark out for Star Wars all the time. I don't give a fuck. Fuck the naysayers. And bottom line, cinema is entertainment. And since I was entertained and I had fun, that at least checks off the bare minimum for me. But like I said, it's Star Wars. I'm a geek for Star Wars. I liked it. I didn't love it. I liked it. But that's why it's at where it's at on this list for me. Number 7 is the Mr. Rogers movie, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, starring Tom Hanks. I went into this movie thinking it was going to be more of a character study or biopic of Mr. Rogers. And it turns out it's not really. It's more about the guy who did the interview, the magazine interview, and how Mr. Rogers affected his life in that point in time. And it is such a fucking beautiful movie. Tom Hanks, this man is probably the greatest living actor alive right now of this generation. He is just so damn good. It's one of the rare movies that has moved me to actual emotion when I've left the theater. As somebody who's had some father issues growing up, it was almost a cathartic experience in a way watching this movie. And those of you who have seen the movie and maybe who have gone through your own troubles, you will know what I'm talking about. You walk out of this movie, if nothing else, it makes you want to be a better person. Number 6 is Dr. Sleep, the sequel, the long-awaited sequel to The Shining. Much like I said back in my review for this movie, if you went into this expecting Shining Part 2, boy, were you in for a rude fucking awakening. This is not The Shining. This is not Kubrick. This is its own animal, and it should be judged accordingly as its own animal. This movie tried to honor the book while also walk that tightrope of honoring what Kubrick did almost 40 years ago. And goddamn if it didn't pull it off. The moment where they go back to the Overlook Hotel just gives me goosebumps every time when that music hits. I thought it was phenomenal. If you don't like it, I don't know what you were expecting, or I'm sorry that you didn't like it, but the movie is fucking great. I just wish the box office treated it a little bit better than it did. Coming in at number 5, Avengers Endgame. For a lot of you, this will probably be your number 1 movie of 2019. And for a while, this sat right up at number 1 as my number 1 movie of 2019. But some movies came out here towards the end of the year that kind of bumped it down. But what a awesome capper to 20-something, 23, 24, 500 Marvel movies up to this point. It was so good. It was so emotional. And I never thought that a superhero movie could be done on such an expert storytelling level. It's everything I wanted in the conclusion of this little saga era of Marvel films. What else is there to say? There's nothing else you can really say about Endgame other than it was a fucking awesome experience. I'm so glad it is the number 1 movie of all time. It deserved to knock off that fucking overrated piece of trash Avatar. But for me, there are just 4 films that I think are just a little bit better for my own personal sensibilities. Number 4 is Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix. If Joaquin Phoenix is not nominated for an Academy Award for his role in this movie, then Jesus Christ, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with people, because he took this Joker character to a different fucking planet. Joaquin Phoenix sunk his teeth into this role and gave us something scary, something prolific, edgy, gritty, emotional. You feel bad for this character. You also despise this character. He's not a good human being, but at the same time, you sympathize with him to a point. That's what good acting is, and that's what good character writing is, and that's what good movies do. They make you run the fucking gauntlet of emotions. It took what superhero movies or supervillain movies could be to a different place, and I'm sure now we're probably going to be getting a slew of Joker imitators coming out that try to emulate what this movie did, but man, I just don't think it can be duplicated. Joaquin Phoenix deserves an Oscar. Todd Phillips deserves to be at least nominated, and I think this movie deserves to be nominated for Picture of the Year. Just my 2 cents. Alright, we're down to the top 3, and coming in at number 3 is Knives Out, directed by Rian Johnson. I just recently saw this movie like a couple weeks ago, so the impact on it is still fresh, but Holy fuck, what a movie. Just a great movie. It takes those known tropes of a murder mystery and really plays with them and kind of turns them on their head a little bit. I wouldn't go as far as to say it subverts your expectations, but this movie was just a lot of fun. Daniel Craig is on point. Jamie Lee Curtis is great. All the acting in there is phenomenal, and the story itself, it keeps you guessing throughout the entire movie, and even when you think you have it figured out, it still throws little curveballs in there for you that make you really doubt if you know what's going on or not. It is just a fantastic ride. If you have not seen the movie, if you've been on the fence with it, I highly recommend it. It's Clue for a new generation, kind of. It has like that sort of Clue vibe to it. It's a great murder mystery, and if you're into those kind of things, I highly recommend Knives Out. It is fantastic. Coming in at number 2 is a movie that I haven't seen a lot of people put on their lists, but it's on mine, and that's Jojo Rabbit. This movie is really one that has flown way under the radar this year, and it's such a fucking shame because it is a great movie. For those of you that don't know what this movie is about, it's about this kid growing up in Nazi Germany during the rule of the Third Reich, during like World War II and that. And he has an imaginary friend, and his imaginary friend is Adolf Hitler, who is actually played by Taika Waititi. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. It's the guy who did Thor Ragnarok. He's all heavy into the Third Reich, and he finds out that his mom is hiding a Jewish girl in their house, and then he starts second-guessing all the bullshit that he's been fed over the years. And it's a really, really powerful, it's a really funny coming-of-age story. You wouldn't expect a movie that was set in this time period and with the subject matter to be conducive to a comedy, much less a coming-of-age comedy, but it works, and it works in fucking spades. This movie really is powerful. It'll make you howl with laughter, and then it'll literally bring you to tears almost minutes later. And it's so criminally underrated right now. I don't see anybody talking about it, but it was my second favorite movie of this year. I highly recommend, if any of you guys get a chance to see this movie on Netflix streaming, Redbox, if you see it anywhere, and you're into these type of movies, or even if you're not into these type of movies, give this movie a shot. I think you'll like it. It's a lot of fun. I can't praise this movie enough. Go see Jojo Rabbit. It is fucking great. And that leads me to my number 1 movie of this year, and I know I'm probably gonna piss off a lot of you people with it, but coming in at number 1 is It Chapter 2. I belong to a few social media groups, and a lot of them are horror groups, and I don't understand people's problems with this movie. I'm not going to sit here and try to deeply analyze other people's thoughts because that's their own. If they don't like it, that's on them. For me, this is everything I wanted it to be. It literally feels like a direct extension off of the first movie. All the acting was superb in it. The music was great. The direction was great. Bill Skarsgård once again knocked it out of the park as Pennywise. It hits all the same humor beats. It hits all the same horror beats. There's nothing really scary in there for somebody like me who's used to this sort of shit. It was so good. It was so well written. I literally left the theater emotional. I'm not gonna lie. It brought me to tears in a good way, in a happy way, in a satisfied way. I know this movie has its naysayers, and there's a lot of people that say that this movie was terrible. Maybe they saw a different cut of the movie than I saw, because I thought this movie was beautiful. If a movie can bring me to that level of emotion walking out, it's really resonated with me, and it's really struck a chord with me. And I don't give a fuck what anybody else says, whether you agree, whether you disagree. I love this movie. It was absolutely beautiful. It Chapter 2 stands alone on top as my number 1 movie that I saw in 2019. So anyways, that was my list of what I felt were the best movies that I saw in theaters in 2019. What were your guys' top films of 2019? Please post them below. I would like to see what your thoughts are. But we got some awesome films coming up here in 2020, like James Bond, Ghostbusters, Halloween Kills coming up around October. So be on the lookout for reviews of those on this channel coming up. But as anyways, like, comment, and subscribe. Adios, and GTFO.